He hit me so hard my vision blurred, and before I could steady myself, his mother leaned back in her velvet chair, lifted her wine glass, and said with a smirk, "Harder next time, Ryan." For a moment, everything went silent. The chandelier above us flickered, scattering bits of gold light across the dining table. My cheek burned with a heat I'd never felt before. My hands trembled against my lap. My daughter, Marissa, gasped, a small, broken sound that seemed to hang in the air longer than any of us expected. And I simply sat there. Before we dive into this intense drama, take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to turn on notifications. Your support is my greatest strength. Drop in the comments where you're watching from, as it warms my heart when I hear how far my stories travel. Let's dive right into the story. My name is Estelle Hart, and that was the night something inside me snapped. The late evening breeze seeped through the half-opened window, carrying the faint scent of pine and cold November rain. I could hear the soft crackle of the fireplace battling against the tension in the room. Ryan stood over me, his breath harsh, chest rising and falling like he'd just accomplished something heroic. Madeline, his mother, smiled. Not a warm smile, not even a polite one. No, a slow, oily curl of her lips, as if violence was a private joke she'd been waiting to witness. "Mom," Marissa whispered, reaching toward me, her fingers trembling. "Are you okay?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. It wasn't pain that silenced me. It was the humiliation, the disbelief. The realization that this man, this son-in-law I once welcomed with open arms, felt comfortable enough to raise his hand to me, comfortable enough to do it in front of my daughter, comfortable enough to do it in front of his own mother. Outside, the sky had gone from soft blue to a heavy charcoal. A storm was gathering, and something in me recognized the omen. Everything was changing. Everything inside me felt like the moment before lightning strikes. I tasted the metallic tang of shame at the corner of my tongue. Ryan wiped his hand on his shirt as if touching me had dirtied him somehow. "You shouldn't talk back to me, Estelle," he said softly, almost too casually. "You don't understand how things work in this house." Marissa flinched. "Ryan, you didn't have to." "Oh, please," Madeline cut in, her voice smooth like poison in warm tea. She adjusted the pearl brooch pinned to her navy blouse and glanced at me with narrowed eyes. She inserted herself into a marital discussion. "Actions have consequences." Another smirk, another deliberate sip of wine, and then the coup de grace. "Honestly, Ryan, harder next time." The words landed like stones. Marissa covered her mouth, her eyes swelling with tears. Lily, my sweet little Lily, peeked from behind the staircase railing, clutching her stuffed bear to her chest. Her big brown eyes were wide, glistening, frightened. Her tiny shoulders rose and fell with every shaky breath she tried to hold quiet. My whole heart cracked at that sight. The storm outside deepened. Thunder rumbled somewhere far off, a warning I should have heeded years ago. If I were a different woman, louder, more confrontational, maybe I would have stood up. Maybe I would have shouted, cried, demanded respect. But I didn't. Instead, I simply lowered my gaze to my trembling hands resting in my lap. The overhead light gleamed against my wedding band, my late husband's ring, the one I'd kept all these years. Even now it anchored me, calmed me. Madeline clicked her tongue. "See, not even fighting back. That's what happens when people forget their place." Her words slithered across the room like snakes. Ryan straightened his collar and walked toward the kitchen, muttering under his breath. Marissa, sobbing now, knelt beside my chair and pressed a damp cloth gently against my cheek. Her fingers were cold. Her tears fell onto my sleeve like tiny raindrops. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't think he—" I placed a shaking hand over hers. "It's not your fault, sweetheart." But deep inside, my heart whispered a quiet truth. I should have seen this sooner. I should have listened to the signs. I should have taken her away from him long ago. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room in a harsh, white glow. For a split second, I saw the reflection of myself in the dining room window, my face pale, eyes wide, a bruise already blooming across my cheek. I didn't look like me anymore. I looked like someone who had been erased, wiped clean of dignity. My breath caught. Slowly, painfully, a realization unfurled inside me. This was not just anger. Not just a moment of bad judgment. This was who Ryan truly was. And worse, this was who he was allowed to be. Madeline raised her glass again. "Now that that's settled," she said, "shall we finish dinner?" Marissa stiffened. Dinner. Mother, are you serious? I'm very serious. Madeline dabbed her lips with a linen napkin. Estelle needed to learn boundaries. She's learned them now. Something in me snapped so quietly it was like the soft tear of fabric, but I felt it, felt the heat rise in my chest, slow, controlled, old as time, not rage, resolve. I stood slowly, ignoring the pain in my cheek. The room went still. Even the thunder seemed to pause. My knees wavered, but I steadied myself with the back of the chair. "I'm leaving," I whispered. Marissa clutched my arm. "I'll come with you." "No," Ryan said sharply from the kitchen doorway. "You stay right here." He stepped forward and Lily whimpered softly from the stairs. Her tiny hand gripped the railing until her knuckles went white. My eyes met hers. That was the moment everything changed. I couldn't leave her here. I couldn't leave Marissa here, and I couldn't leave myself here. Not in a home where violence was a casual part of conversation, not where a mother encouraged her son to hit a woman harder. So I stepped forward, my voice steady, gentle, dangerous in its calm. "This isn't over," Madeline scoffed. "What are you going to do? Cry, gossip to your little church friends?" She flicked her wrist dismissively. "Please, no one will believe an old woman's dramatics." I didn't answer. Instead, I picked up my purse, reached for my coat, and walked toward the door. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that had been chipped away slowly, silently. Thunder roared again, louder this time, shaking the windows. At the doorway, I turned once more. "You should be careful," I said softly. My hand on the brass doorknob. "Men like Ryan, people like you, they always think they're untouchable." Madeline's eyes narrowed. "Is that a threat?" I offered her a small, tired smile, the kind that hides a storm underneath. "No," I murmured. "It's a promise." And with that, I stepped out into the cold, rain-scented night, the wind whipping against my coat like a warning, or perhaps a blessing. Behind me, the door shut with a soft click. Ahead of me, I could feel it already, the beginning of something powerful, the beginning of the end for Ryan Wilson. The night air nipped at my cheeks as I stepped off their porch, but somehow the cold felt kinder than anything inside that house. A thin mist rolled across the quiet suburban street, softening the glow of the street lamps into pale halos. My breath floated in small clouds in front of me as I walked to my car, each step echoing the tremor still lodged in my bones. I slid into the driver's seat, shut the door, and let the silence wrap around me. My hands rested on the steering wheel, steadying, absorbing warmth from the leather. The bruise on my face throbbed with a pulse of its own, but it wasn't the sting that held my thoughts hostage. It was the sound of my granddaughter's whimper. Tiny, helpless, like the little girl she still was. For a few seconds, I simply sat there, in the dark, in the stillness, in the truth of what my life had become. The rain started slowly, tapping like nervous fingers against the windshield. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes, letting the memories rise, soft, warm, and bittersweet. Because before tonight, before Ryan's hand struck my face, before Madeline's cruel smirk, I used to believe I had done everything right. I used to believe I had raised my daughter into a world that would be kinder than the one I grew up in. The truth is, my life began in small, quiet places. A one-bedroom home with peeling wallpaper, a childhood of hand-me-down dresses and pots of beans stretched across 3 days. A mother who worked 2 cleaning jobs and still found time to hold me close at night. A father who taught me to stand firm, even when the world tried to bend me. "Strength," he used to say, resting his hand on my tiny shoulder, "doesn't always shout, Estelle. Sometimes it whispers." I learned to trust whispers. Whispers are what guided me the day my husband died. His name was Samuel Hart, and he was the kind of man who smelled of cedarwood and warm bread from his mother's bakery. He had thick hands that always cradled my face gently. When I lost him to a heart attack, the world became quieter, almost too quiet, except for Marissa. My sweet girl. She was only 12. The day we buried Samuel, the sky wept like she did, relentless, uncontrollable, heartbreaking. I remember holding her close through the rain, brushing wet strands of hair from her cheeks, whispering, "We still have each other, baby." And we did. We made it through nights when the heater broke. We made it through days when the fridge held only eggs and rice. We made it through my double shifts at the community center, the aches in my joints, the loneliness of widowhood. Marissa grew into a beautiful young woman, quiet, thoughtful, the kind of girl who apologized for taking up space. By the time she finished college, she had a heart so gentle it could break from a single harsh word. Maybe that's why Ryan found her so easy to mold. I didn't see it at first. Most mothers don't. He was charming, polite, the kind of man who brought flowers the first time he met me. He said all the right things. I'll take care of her. You raised a wonderful woman. You can trust me, Mrs. Hart. Trust. That word has deceived more women than lies ever have. The first sign, barely a flicker, came on the day they moved into their current home. Marissa had mistakenly bought the wrong paint color, a soft blush instead of muted ivory. I remember Ryan's jaw tightening, his nostrils flaring, just slightly. Most people would have missed it, but I caught it. And I caught the way Marissa rushed to apologize even though it was a small error. Still, I chose hope. Hope that he would be good to her. Hope that she wouldn't learn pain in the shape of a man's shadow the way I once did long before Samuel. But men like Ryan don't change with hope. They sharpen with it. Over the years, my visits to their home became windows into subtle storms. Marissa flinching when silverware clinked too loudly. Lily tiptoeing around him, whispering instead of speaking freely. Ryan's mother, Madeline, offering thin smiles that never touched her ice-blue eyes. Madeline believed her son walked on marble floors above the rest of the world. She raised him to believe the same. Etiquette lessons, charm school, private tutors, strict manners enforced with cold discipline, but not a drop of compassion. When Ryan married Marissa, I could feel the shift immediately. The first Christmas after their wedding, I gifted them a handmade quilt, stitched from scraps of Samuel's shirts and old family fabrics. Marissa cried when she opened it. Ryan folded it neatly and placed it on a side table. "We're going for a modern aesthetic," he said, forcing a polite smile. "Sentimental clutter doesn't fit the theme." Marissa's smile trembled. I pretended not to notice. Another sign. But even then, I didn't know how bad things had become. Not until the day Lily called me from the closet, whispering so softly I barely heard her. "Grandma, Daddy's yelling. Mommy is crying. Can you come?" My heart twisted. My fears confirmed. That was the beginning of the small fractures, the unspoken secrets, the lingering bruises Marissa insisted she bumped into, the way Lily clung to me longer at every goodbye. But still I didn't imagine he would hit me. Still, I didn't imagine his mother would revel in it. The rain thickened, running down the windshield in long, shaky lines. I opened my eyes and watched the droplets gather and fall, each one pulling a piece of my past along with it. Inside their house, I once stood as a symbol of strength for my daughter. Tonight, I had walked out as a symbol of danger. To them. They just didn't know it yet. My phone buzzed softly inside my purse. I reached for it, hands steadying as if my body were preparing itself for a mission my mind had not yet accepted. It was a text from Lily. "Grandma, are you coming back? Please?" My breath hitched. Sweet child, precious little soul. She didn't understand any of this. She shouldn't have to. I typed back slowly. "I'll always come back for you, my love. Always." The screen glowed softly in the night, illuminating my tired face reflected in the window. The bruise had deepened into a darker shade, like the storm swelling behind me. I pressed a hand over my heart. For Marissa, for Lily, for myself. I had survived worse storms than this. I put the car in drive, wiped away the last tear that dared fall, and whispered into the dim light, "This ends soon." But not with arguments, not with shouting, not with tears or begging or pleading. It would end with truth. It would end with one discovery, one plan, one choice, one phone call that Ryan and Madeline would never see coming. The rain kept falling, but inside me something fierce began to rise, quiet, steady, determined. The whisper my father once taught me to trust. Strength, true strength, and it was about to reshape everything. The rain had eased by the time I reached my house, but the sky still sagged with clouds heavy enough to swallow the moon. I walked through my quiet living room, the familiar scent of lavender and old books wrapping around me like a weary embrace. Yet tonight, even my home felt changed, charged, as if it too sensed the storm gathering inside me. I set my purse on the counter, my fingers brushing the bruise on my cheek. The skin pulsed, a reminder, not of weakness, but of a boundary crossed, a boundary shattered. For a long moment, I simply stood there, listening to the ticking clock on the wall. The rhythm steadied me, each beat echoing my rising resolve. Still, before any war begins, there is always a moment of grief. I sank into the old armchair Samuel once favored, the leather creaking beneath me. I could almost feel him beside me, warm, sturdy, silent. His presence lived in this chair, in the walls, in the tiny crack on the kitchen tile he tried and failed to fix. If he had been alive, if he had seen what Ryan did... A tear slipped down my cheek. I wiped it away quickly. Crying tonight meant letting Ryan's violence echo beyond that living room. I refused to give him that. Just as I was gathering myself, the doorbell rang. My heart lurched. Not from fear, from instinct. No one rang my bell this late unless something was wrong. I stood, smoothing my skirt, forcing a calm I didn't feel. When I opened the door, the porch light cast a soft golden glow on a familiar figure, Rosa Bennett. My closest friend for over 30 years. Her silver curls glimmered under her hood, and her eyes, sharp, perceptive, searched my face immediately. "Estelle," she whispered, her voice catching. "Marissa called me." Of course she did. I stepped aside, letting Rosa into the dim living room. She closed the door gently behind her, and the soft click felt like a seal on a secret neither of us had chosen, but would now share. Rosa cupped my face, her fingertips trembling when they brushed the bruise, her lips parted in horror. "Oh, honey, what did he do to you?" Nothing I wanted to speak aloud. Not yet. Not until the words could come without shaking. I pulled her hand away gently. "Sit with me, Rosa." She obeyed, but her eyes never left the bruise. The firelight flickered across our faces, adding a softness to the room that contrasted brutally with the truth between us. "It happened in front of Marissa," I finally said, the words like stones in my throat. "In front of Lily. And Madeline." I exhaled sharply. "Madeline encouraged it." Rosa gasped, a sound laced with disbelief and fury. She leaned forward, gripping her knees. "That woman has always been poisonous, Estelle. But this is evil." I nodded slowly, letting the heaviness settle. I should have seen it sooner. The way she talked to Marissa, the way she treated Lily, the way she looked at me like I was a trespasser in her kingdom. "She's not fit to be anyone's mother," Rosa snapped. "And Ryan, if Samuel were alive..." "I know," my voice cracked. "But he isn't. It's just me." Rosa reached across the small coffee table and squeezed my hand. "You're not alone. You have me. You have people who love you. But Estelle, what are you going to do?" The question hung in the air, heavy as thunder. What was I going to do? I didn't yet have the answer. The truth was, I needed time to think, time to piece together the fragments of betrayal that had been shattering around Marissa for years. Still, the whispers of danger had begun long before tonight. I remembered a moment from months ago, one I'd pushed aside because denial is easier than heartbreak. I had come over on a Saturday afternoon, hoping to surprise Lily with a new storybook. When I walked inside, Marissa greeted me with a forced smile, her shoulders tight, her eyes dim. We sat in the kitchen, the smell of ginger tea floating between us. "Mom," she said softly, tracing circles on her mug, "do you ever feel trapped?" I blinked, startled. "Trapped? How do you mean?" She hesitated. Something in her body changed. Her spine stiffened, her jaw tightened. She looked at the window, not at me. "Never mind," she whispered. "Forget I said anything." But I didn't forget. I couldn't. Another time, I noticed Lily flinch when Ryan raised his voice at the television. Just a football commentary, but her tiny shoulders curled inward, her breath hitched, and she crawled into my lap without a word. Red flags everywhere. I saw them. But Marissa always brushed them away. "Mom, he's stressed. Mom, he's under pressure at work. Mom, he's tired. Mom, it was just an argument." And Ryan's mother? Oh, Madeline never missed a chance to tighten her grip around Marissa's throat in polite, subtle ways. "You really should speak less. Dear, Ryan prefers dinner exactly at 6. Estelle, your daughter can be so emotional. It's exhausting. Women should not challenge their husbands. It creates instability." Every word sugar-coated, every word a blade. Tonight had simply been the moment the blade finally met bone. Rosa leaned closer, her brows furrowed. "Estelle, This wasn't the first time he's hurt someone physically, was it? I swallowed. My voice trembled. No. A flash of guilt burned my throat. Rosa's eyes softened. You've carried this alone for too long. I looked into the fire, golden embers pulsing like a heartbeat. I didn't want to break Marissa's marriage. I didn't want to be the reason everything fell apart. Rosa shook her head. Estelle, he broke it the day he decided love meant control. A silence flowed between us, deep, thick, aching. Then my phone buzzed again, a message. I reached for it, the screen lighting the dark living room in a cool blue glow. It was from Marissa. Mom, he told me you provoked him. Mom, he said I embarrassed him by defending you. He wants me to apologize. A coldness spread through my chest. Apologize. For defending her mother, for watching him strike me, for witnessing the cruelty his own mother encouraged. I could feel the tension building like a rope pulled too tight. Rosa leaned forward, reading the message over my shoulder. Her gasp was sharp. He wants her to apologize to him? After that? I nodded slowly, pressing a hand to my forehead. My heart ached. Not from the bruise, but from what my daughter had become under Ryan's thumb. Rosa, I whispered. He's breaking her spirit, slowly. Quietly. Rosa reached for my hand again, her grip steady, her gaze fierce. Then you have to be her strength now. You have to be the one who steps into the storm with a plan. And Estelle, she exhaled, voice trembling. I know that look in your eyes. You're going to do something, aren't you? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The fire reflected in her eyes, catching on the small wrinkles carved by years of laughter and sorrow. She had known me long enough to see the shift happening inside me. Yes, I said softly, but there was no fire in my tone, no anger, just quiet certainty, but not rashly, not emotionally, not tonight. Rosa studied me, nodding slowly. Good, don't strike yet. Let them think you're hurt. Let them underestimate you. And that's when it happened. A strange calm washed over me, cold, deliberate, steady. The kind of calm a woman feels right before she uncovers the truth hidden in shadows. The kind of calm that precedes the cracking open of an entire life. I didn't know the full extent of what lay ahead. I didn't know how deep Ryan's secrets went. I didn't know how far Madeline had already helped him sink, but I could feel it. A whisper in my chest, a shift in the air. Something was coming, a discovery, a truth powerful enough to turn the tide. My phone buzzed once more, this time a message from Lily. Grandma, please help Mommy. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, and felt the final snap inside my heart. Not a break, a transformation, quiet, cold, inevitable. This, I murmured, standing slowly, is the last time he will ever hurt her. Rosa rose with me. Estelle, what are you going to do? I turned toward my hallway, toward the small drawer where I kept every document, every note, every clue I'd collected over the past year, without ever admitting, to myself or anyone else, why I held on to them. I brushed my fingers along the drawer's edge. I'm going, I whispered, to learn the truth. A soft clap of thunder rolled across the sky, as if the heavens themselves were listening. And in that dim living room, lit by fading firelight, I took my first step into the storm. The step that would lead me toward the secret, the evidence, the unraveling, toward the one phone call that would devastate Ryan Wilson's entire world. The rain had slowed to a soft tapping against the window by the time Rosa left, but the storm inside me had only sharpened. Every part of my body hummed with the unsettling clarity that comes before a turning point. I didn't know what I would find, but my spirit already sensed it. Tonight, something would reveal itself. Not because I searched, but because truth has a way of surfacing when silence breaks. The bruise on my cheek still throbbed, each pulse reminding me of the moment Ryan crossed a line he could never uncross. I touched it gently, then pulled my hand away, not in pain, but in resolve. I walked down the hallway toward the small cedar cabinet near my bedroom door, the one Samuel and I bought at a flea market 30 years ago. It still carried the faint scent of his aftershave, even after all these years. My fingers hovered over the brass handle, hesitating. Inside that drawer were scraps of suspicion collected over the past year, old receipts, photos Lily had drawn, legal envelopes wrongly delivered to their address. Pieces I never connected because the idea of what they might form was too terrifying to confront. But now Now the fear had transformed into something else entirely, a quiet hunger for truth. I pulled the drawer open, and then a memory stopped me. Not a soft one, a sharp, sudden one, like the sound of glass breaking in a quiet house. 2 months earlier, Madeline had been unusually flustered the day she came to my home for Lily's school project. She moved around my kitchen like a restless shadow, wiping invisible crumbs from my counter, straightening dish towels I had already folded neatly. She kept touching her purse, over and over, like she was afraid something inside might escape. When she stepped out to take a phone call, she left the purse on the kitchen stool, a small cream handbag with a gold clasp, classy, elegant. Just like the woman she pretended to be. But when she returned, her first move was to snatch the purse up with a speed that felt unnatural. I noticed it, and she noticed me noticing. She smiled too quickly, too tightly. Something was hidden in that purse. I didn't search then, but I remembered. And suddenly, here in my hallway, under the dull glow of the lamp, the memory resurfaced with such force that my breath hitched. In that drawer, tucked beneath my old notes, was a cream envelope, one I found months ago beneath Lily's coloring book. I had slipped it into the drawer absent-mindedly while cleaning. I never opened it. Until now. My fingers trembled slightly as I pushed aside the stack of papers, Lily's drawings, appointment cards, bills from years past, until I spotted it, a slim cream envelope sealed with a gold emblem. The very same emblem I'd seen on Madeline's handbag. My heart gave a steady, low thump. I lifted the envelope carefully. The paper felt heavy, expensive. A faint scent of Madeline's overpowering rose perfume still lingered on it. This wasn't junk mail. It wasn't a school notice. It wasn't meant for me. I broke the seal. Inside was a stack of documents, neatly stapled with the cold precision of something that could ruin lives. The first words I saw were, "Notice of Federal Review. Internal audit required." A chill swept over me. I scanned further, my eyes picking up phrases that made my stomach tighten. Unauthorized fund transfers. Internal fraud warning. Pending investigation. Compliance breach, my breath caught. I flipped through the papers rapidly until a familiar name surfaced in bold letters. Ryan Wilson. And just below it, signatory, Madeline Wilson. A slow, bitter understanding began to take shape inside me, like smoke curling into an unveiled path. Ryan and his mother were involved in something serious, something illegal, something they were both trying to hide. My pulse hammered. This wasn't a simple workplace disagreement. This wasn't a minor mistake. This was a federal-level investigation. A tremor ran through my hands as I kept reading. There were numbers. Large, unexplainable numbers, funneled through a company account that Ryan was responsible for supervising. There were signatures, dates, warnings, and a final sheet marked with a bright red stamp, escalation pending. But the line beneath it froze the very breath inside my chest. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action and asset seizure. My mouth went dry. My knees weakened. Now I understood. Now everything made sense. The tension in Marissa's house, the way Ryan snapped at the smallest mistake, the desperation in Madeline's eyes masked under cold superiority. They were losing control. They were cornered. They were afraid. And tonight, when I challenged them, when I stepped into their toxic reign, Ryan reacted not as a man correcting a mother-in-law, but as a cornered animal defending a secret. My heart beat with slow, echoing force. "What have you done, Ryan?" My fingers brushed across Madeline's signature again, a flourish of confidence, a mark of arrogance. And in one swift moment, I knew. They thought no one would ever see these papers. They thought Marissa wouldn't question. They thought Lily was too young to understand. They thought I was too old, too soft, too harmless to ever notice. But they were wrong, very wrong. And as the truth sank deeper, my shock slowly began to turn into something colder, something steadier, something that made my spine lengthen and my heartbeat slow to a measured pace. I held their downfall in my hands. This wasn't just a family issue anymore. This was a crime, a secret that could destroy Ryan and his mother completely. I placed the documents gently on the desk, exhaling a long, trembling breath. Then something caught my eye. Something handwritten on the back of the final page, a note, a rushed one. "EK, finalize details ASAP, he's panicking." EK, 2 small letters. But the initials sent a zap of recognition through me. Agent Daniel Klein, a federal compliance officer, a quiet man who lived down the street, a man well known for uncovering corporate fraud cases, a man whose card Marissa once mentioned Ryan hated. My hand drifted to my purse again, remembering that I still had his business card tucked into a side pocket from months ago after he thanked me for donating to an employee charity event. One card, one number, one man capable of unraveling everything. A soft knock startled me out of my thoughts. I froze. Another knock, gentle, barely audible. My heart jumped. I walked to the window, pulling the curtain aside slightly. A small figure stood beneath the street lamp. Shoulders tiny, hair damp, clutching her stuffed bear, Lily alone, in the dark. My body reacted before my mind did. I rushed to the door and pulled it open. "Grandma," she whispered, tears pooling in her big brown eyes. "Mommy told me to stay in my room, but I heard them yelling again. I got scared. I ran here." Her voice broke. "They didn't even notice I left." A sharp, painful ache wrapped around my heart. I pulled her into my arms, feeling her small fingers clutch my coat with desperation. "It's okay, baby," I whispered into her hair. "Grandma's here." In that moment, holding my trembling granddaughter under the dim porch light, the cold wind brushing her wet cheeks, I knew what I had to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things got worse. Now. For Marissa. For Lily. For every silent bruise, every whispered apology, every stolen piece of peace. Lily looked up at me with watery eyes. "Grandma, are you mad at Daddy?" I cupped her face gently, brushing away her tears. "No, sweetheart," I whispered, a quiet fire building in my chest. "I'm about to make sure he never hurts you or your mommy again." The wind rustled the trees, the porch light flickered, and deep inside me, a quiet, deadly calm settled into place. The calm that comes when a woman discovers the truth. The calm that comes before she chooses justice, before she makes the call that changes everything. Lily's tiny hand clung to mine as we stepped into the warm glow of my living room. The storm outside had faded to a soft drizzle, but a different kind of storm, quiet and calculated, had begun to form within me. I closed the door gently behind us. Lily's breaths were still shaky, each one sounding like a fragile attempt to steady herself after running through the dark alone. I hung her little raincoat on the hook by the door, brushing off droplets of cold water. "Grandma," she whispered, rubbing her eyes with her stuffed bear. "Is Mommy okay?" My lips tightened. "She will be, sweetheart. Come sit by the fire." The soft crackling of the flames filled the room as I wrapped her in a knitted blanket. She curled against me, small and trembling, her cheek pressed to my chest. For a moment, I just held her, feeling her warmth, her innocence, her trust. It strengthened me. It sharpened me. Because if Lily was brave enough to run into the night for safety, then I could be strong enough to tear down the man she was running from. I stroked her hair gently. "Sweetheart, did you walk the whole way alone?" She nodded against me. "I know the road. I come here with Mommy a lot." The air caught in my throat. A lot. How often had my daughter come crying to me, hiding bruised emotions behind tired eyes? How many nights had she carried her silent suffering alone while I sat unaware, believing her when she said everything was fine? I swallowed the guilt, sharp and bitter. "Lily," I murmured, "did Daddy see you leave?" She shook her head. "He was yelling again. Grandma Madeline said Mommy is ungrateful. They told me to go upstairs because children don't belong in adult conversations." Her small voice cracked. I didn't want to be upstairs. My heart broke and hardened simultaneously. One piece shattered for her innocence. Another turned to stone for what had to be done. I kissed the top of her head. "You're safe now. You hear me? You're safe." She nodded, finally relaxing under my hand. When her breathing softened, growing slow and heavy, I eased her gently onto the couch. I placed her stuffed bear under her arm and tucked the blanket around her shoulders. Her lashes fluttered as she drifted into sleep. I watched her for several seconds, the rise and fall of her chest, the way her tiny fingers curled lightly around the bear's ear. A fierce warmth filled my chest, a tenderness that made the firelight shimmer in my eyes. Then I stood, slowly, quietly, with purpose. Because now the transformation had begun, not the outward kind, the shouting, the chaos, the accusations. No, the kind only women who have endured too much can understand, the quiet transformation, the cold clarity, the rebirth of power. I walked into my bedroom and closed the door softly behind me. The room was dim except for the soft yellow glow of the bedside lamp. The documents I had discovered from Madeline's envelope still lay scattered across my desk, each one a silent confession of Ryan's crimes. The words felt heavy even from across the room. Unauthorized fund transfers, internal fraud warnings, pending investigation, asset seizure, legal action, all tied to Ryan, all signed by Madeline, all enough to crush them. I sat down slowly, letting my fingers trace the bold letters of Ryan's name on the top of the page. This wasn't a small mistake he tried to fix quietly. This was a deliberate pattern, a hidden trail, a reckless unraveling of greed. And they thought no one would notice. They thought no one could stop them. They thought I was powerless. My lips curved into a faint, steady smile. Madeline had no idea I held her downfall in my hands. She had no idea that her own arrogance delivered the weapon straight into my possession. I sorted the documents carefully, laying them out in a row, making sure to memorize every detail, every signature, every number. Years working in a community center, handling paperwork, had sharpened my eye for inconsistencies, and these documents were filled with them. What caught my attention most was the repeated stamp, escalation pending. That meant time was running out. For Ryan, not for me. A soft knock startled me. I turned. Lily stood in the doorway, holding her blanket, eyes sleepy. "Grandma, I'm thirsty." I softened immediately. "Come here, my love." I poured her a small glass of warm milk and she drank slowly, the warmth calming her trembling hands. After she finished, I walked her back to the couch and waited until her eyes fluttered closed again. When her breathing settled into soft, steady rhythms, I returned to my room. My transformation had resumed, but this time, it wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. I opened my nightstand drawer and pulled out a thin white business card. Agent Daniel Klein, Senior Federal Compliance Officer, Financial Integrity Division. I ran my finger over the embossed seal. Ryan hated this man for a reason. Madeline feared him for a reason. Companies trembled when his name appeared in internal emails, but I didn't dial the number. Not yet. Silent revenge requires patience. Competitors of Ryan's had tried to expose him for months, but they lacked evidence. They lacked connection. They lacked a reason strong enough to be believed. I had all three, but I needed more. A confirmation, a detail, the missing piece. I returned to the documents, flipping through page after page until something small but critical caught my eye. A handwritten note clipped to the back of one of the forms. It wasn't elegant like Madeline's writing. It was rushed, frantic. "Keep this hidden, he's close. M.W." My pulse quickened. He's close. Who was close? Agent Klein? A federal investigator? A whistleblower? Whoever it was, Madeline feared them enough to scribble this warning in the margins. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. My reflection stared back at me from the darkened window. Lined forehead, fierce eyes, a bruise that now looked like war paint. "It's time," I whispered. But not for the phone call, not yet. Tonight, I would move silently. Just like every grandmother who has ever survived heartbreak, every woman who learned to smile while swallowing storms. I gathered the documents and placed them into a secure folder. Then I took out a small, outdated flip phone, one Samuel once used when he volunteered with local patrols. I kept it charged for emergencies. Its simplicity was its advantage. No tracking, no synced apps, no shared accounts with Ryan and Marissa's family network. Perfect for what was coming. I stored the documents in a fireproof lockbox under my bed, where no one but I knew to look. Not even Rosa, not even Marissa. Then I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, my hand steady as the moon emerged finally from behind the storm clouds. A single moonbeam fell across the floorboards, a pale silver path cutting through the shadows. I stepped onto it, and just then my phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't Marissa, it was Ryan. The screen lit up with his name in bright white letters. I didn't answer. The call rang once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. Seconds later, a message appeared. "We need to talk, now." A cold smile touched my lips. "Not yet, Ryan. My transformation wasn't complete. You still think I'm the old woman you hid in front of your mother. You still think I'm someone who will shrink, apologize, hide. You still believe the bruise on my face means I'm broken. But you don't know the truth. You don't know that tonight the tide shifted. You don't know I found the documents. You don't know your mother left the trail. You don't know Lily ran through the dark to my home. You don't know I have everything." I set the phone down without replying. It buzzed again and again, but I left it there, silent, ignored, powerless, exactly how they once made Marissa feel. Now the roles had begun to reverse. Tonight I transformed. Tomorrow I would act. And the next day, Ryan Wilson would never see the sun rise on the life he once controlled so effortlessly. He would learn, in the quietest and most devastating way possible, what it means to underestimate a grandmother's strength. Morning came quietly, too quietly, the kind of quiet that makes your skin prickle because you know, deep in your bones, that something is shifting beneath the surface. As sunlight crept through my curtains, I found myself standing by the window, arms crossed, watching the neighborhood slowly awaken. Cars hummed in the distance. A dog barked somewhere near the corner house. The world moved on as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something irreversible. On my couch, little Lily was still asleep, curled like a petal beneath her blanket, her stuffed bear tucked under her cheek. She looked peaceful, something a child should always be, something Ryan had stolen from her far too many times. A soft knock pulled me from my thoughts. I knew who it was before I opened the door. Marissa. Her usually calm brown eyes were swollen from crying, and she looked smaller somehow, wrapped in a thin gray sweater that hung loosely from her shoulders. "Mom," she whispered. I stepped aside, letting her enter. The moment she saw Lily on the couch, she covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. She hurried to her daughter and knelt beside her, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "Oh, sweetheart, Mommy's here." Lily stirred, stretching before blinking up sleepily. "Mommy?" Marissa collapsed into tears, pulling her close. I gave them that moment, mother and daughter, reunited in safety. But Marissa's trembling shoulders told me we had a long road ahead. When she finally looked at me, her voice was barely audible. "Ryan's furious," I inhaled sharply but calmly. "I figured. He thinks you're trying to turn Lily against him." Her breath hitched. "He thinks you're manipulating me." Manipulating. The word tasted bitter on her tongue. She didn't believe it. Her eyes said so. But the grip he had on her mind still lingered. I walked toward her slowly, lowering myself to her level. "Marissa," I said softly. "You know, none of that is true." She nodded quickly. "I know, Mom, I know." Her voice cracked. "But he's twisting everything. He said if I don't bring Lily home today, he'll—" She paused, her throat tightening. "He'll what?" She looked down, shame filling her eyes. "He said he'll take everything, the house, Lily, my savings." Her breath shuddered. "He said I'm nothing without him." My heart clenched, but not in fear, in fury. Quiet, cold fury. "Marissa," I said gently but firmly, "he's terrified. That's why he's lashing out. That's why he's threatening you." She shook her head, tears falling. "Mom, he's never been this angry. He knows Lily ran here. He knows I took too long to come home. He thinks you're influencing me." I swallowed the sharp sting of anger. Influencing. If only he knew how calm I was being now. If only he knew what documents lay beneath my bed. If only he knew the phone call I was planning. "Let's sit," I said. But as we moved toward the kitchen table, another knock sounded at the door. A loud one, a demanding one. A knock that didn't belong to friends or neighbors. Marissa froze, eyes wide. "Mom, that's him." Lily's head snapped up. Fear flickered in her little eyes. I felt something deep within me settle, like the final click of a lock. The storm was no longer coming. It had arrived. I stepped forward. Marissa instinctively grabbed my wrist. "Mom, don't. He's angry. Just let me talk to him." "No," I whispered. "This time he talks to me." I opened the door. There he stood. Ryan Wilson, jaw clenched, face tight, eyes blazing with the entitlement of a man who had never been told no. Behind him stood Madeline. Her lips already pressed into that thin, judgmental line that made her face look carved from stone. Ryan didn't wait for an invitation. He shoved the door open wider and stepped in, his presence immediately filling the space with his bitterness. "Where is she?" he barked. I didn't move, didn't flinch. "Lower your voice," I said calmly. "Lily is resting." He scoffed. "She's my daughter. You don't tell me how to speak in my own family." "My home," I corrected softly. "My rules." Madeline stepped in with a sharp inhale. "This is outrageous. She had no right to run here, Estelle. No right at all." "She was afraid," I countered. Ryan's nostrils flared. "Afraid of what? Hearing adults talk?" I locked eyes with him. She ran in the rain, alone. That doesn't happen when a child feels safe. Marissa appeared behind me, Lily clinging to her leg. Ryan's demeanor changed for a split second. His eyes softened, but only out of manipulation, not love. "Baby," he said to Marissa, "come home. We can work this out, but you need to remember your place." Rose's words echoed in my mind. He broke it the day he decided love meant control. Marissa shrank back. Ryan saw it, and he pushed. "Apologize," he said, "to my mother, for what happened yesterday. You humiliated me, Marissa." I stepped between them so fast he blinked. "She owes no one an apology." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Stay out of this, Estelle." "No." The word landed like steel. Madeline sneered. "You are starting to overstep, Estelle. And trust me, you don't want to pick a fight you can't win." I turned to her slowly. "Madeline," I said, voice low and steady. "You already lost the moment you told your son to hit a woman harder." Her face paled, for just a breath, but then she recovered. "You can't prove anything," she whispered. "Can't I?" My voice was a whisper too, a dangerous one. Ryan stepped closer, towering over me. "Where are the lies you're making up? Show me." I lifted my chin. "You want the truth? Fine, but we'll discuss it somewhere neutral, like your dining room." He blinked at the unexpected compliance. Madeline's eyes narrowed. "What game are you playing, Estelle?" I gave her a small smile, the kind that always frightened women like her. "No game," I said. "Just clarity." Marissa's breath hitched behind me. "Mom," I touched her hand gently. "It's okay, baby, it's time." I turned back to Ryan. "You want to talk? Then let's talk." All of us. His face lifted with a smug smirk. He thought he had already won, but he had no idea the ambush awaiting him. Later, at their house, the tension in their dining room was suffocating. The chandelier's golden light flickered across polished wood and cold expressions. Ryan stood like a king returning to his throne. Madeline sat tall, hands folded, trying to mimic poise. Marissa sat beside me, trembling, and I rested my hands on the table, my expression calm. Ryan cleared his throat. "Now, let's hear your accusation, Estelle." Madeline chimed in. "Yes, let's see what fantasy you've created." I watched them both for a long moment. Then I reached into my purse, slowly, deliberately. Their smug expressions flickered, and I placed the folder on the table. The cream envelope. Madeline froze. Ryan stiffened. The air changed. I opened the folder, revealing the documents. The federal notices, the audit warnings, the unauthorized transfers, the signatures. Ryan's signature. Madeline's signature. Every sheet a weapon. The room fell silent. Madeline's face drained of color. Ryan's jaw dropped an inch. Marissa's breath caught. I spoke softly, but each word hit like thunder. "You laid your hands on me. You terrorized my daughter. You frightened my granddaughter. And while you were doing all of that," I tapped the document, "you were also committing federal crimes." Ryan swallowed hard. "Where did you get that?" Madeline whispered, horrified. "Estelle, you don't understand what you're holding." "Oh, I do," I replied, "fully." Marissa looked at the papers, then at Ryan, betrayal flooding her eyes. "Ryan, what is this?" He stuttered. It's nothing. Work matters. You wouldn't—" "It's fraud," I said evenly. "Investigators already know. They're waiting for one thing to proceed." Ryan glared at me. "And what's that?" I held up the card. Agent Daniel Klein. The room seemed to stop breathing. "I haven't called him yet," I continued, "but if I do—" I leaned forward, eyes locked onto Ryan's. "Your life as you know it ends." Madeline's voice cracked. "You wouldn't dare—" I cut her off with a whisper. "Try me." She recoiled as if struck. Ryan's mask shattered. Panic flickered in his eyes for the first time. The power had shifted. The confrontation had exploded. And the next move? It belonged to me. The room fell into a cold, unnatural silence. You could almost hear the crack forming in Ryan's confidence, the quiet shatter of a man realizing he was no longer the predator, but the prey. Madeline's perfectly manicured hand trembled against the table. She tried to mask it by straightening her blouse, but the tremor betrayed her. Ryan swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing like he had a stone lodged in his throat. Marissa clutched Lily's hand protectively. The soft overhead light highlighted the bruise on my cheek. The bruise Ryan gave me. Oddly, it gave me strength. It was the last mark he would ever leave on anyone in this family, and he knew it. Finally, Ryan found his voice. "This," he choked, gesturing to the documents. "This isn't what it looks like." I tilted my head with the kind of gentleness that frightens cruel people. Of course it is, Madeline snapped. You don't understand business, Estelle. You're twisting something you know nothing about. I tapped the sheet with her signature. You signed the cover-up, that tells me everything. She went pale. Ryan balled his fists, his jaw grinding back and forth. You don't have proof this came from us. Actually, I replied softly, I do. I pulled out the final sheet, the handwritten note she'd scribbled. Keep this hidden, he's close. M.W. Madeline stared at the letters like they were claws dragging down her world. M.W. Madeline Wilson. Her signature, her writing, her mistake. She attempted to speak, but her breath stuttered, all poise dissolving. Ryan lunged forward, grabbing the papers, but I slid them back calmly. He wasn't used to someone not flinching. Sit down, Ryan. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried the full weight of everything I'd endured and survived. He hesitated, then sank slowly into his chair. Marissa stared at him as though he were a stranger. Maybe he always was. Mom, she whispered, what happens now? I rested a hand over hers. That depends on him. Ryan blinked, confused. What? I'm giving you one chance, I said quietly. Not out of mercy, not out of fear, but so Marissa and Lily can walk away clean, without a public spectacle. Madeline's mouth fell open. You aren't going to the authorities? I held up the agent's card. Not if Ryan does exactly what I say. Right now. Today. Ryan leaned forward slowly, eyes narrowed. And what's that? I took a deep breath and let my voice turn steady as stone. You will sign the divorce papers quietly. You will give Marissa full custody of Lily. You will surrender the house to her, and you will walk away. Forever. Ryan's jaw dropped. Absolutely not. I will not. You will, I said calmly, or Agent Klein gets everything in this envelope within the hour. His face twisted, not with anger this time, but fear. Real fear. Madeline shot up from her chair. Estelle, listen to me. If you go to him, Ryan could go to prison. Actual prison, and so could I. That, I said, tilting my head, sounds like a personal problem. Her eyes widened with a kind of panic I had never seen on her. For once, the venom fell away, leaving only the hollow shell of a woman who had pushed people too far. Please, she whispered, don't do this. I felt a strange ache in my chest. Not sympathy, but something else. Recognition. Women like her never imagine the day their power runs out. Madeline, I said softly, the day you told your son to hit me harder, you sealed this fate yourself. She flinched like the words bruised her skin. Ryan stood abruptly, knocking his chair backwards. He paced, running a hand through his hair, breathing hard. This is manipulation, he snapped. Extortion, blackmail. No, I corrected. This is accountability. He turned to Marissa, his voice frantic. Say something, she's ruining everything. Marissa lifted her head slowly, finally unbroken. You ruined everything, she whispered. Ryan froze. She stood up, trembling but tall. You broke me. You scared Lily. You put your hands on my mother, and I let it go every time. Not anymore. Lily tugged her hand. Mommy, can we go home? Not Daddy's home. Our home? Marissa knelt and kissed her forehead. Yes, baby. Our home. Ryan staggered backwards as if struck. Marissa, you're choosing her over me. She looked him dead in the eyes. I'm choosing peace. His knees buckled slightly. In that moment, he was no longer the roaring tyrant. Not the controlling husband, not Madeline's golden son. He was small, defeated, terrified. He looked at the documents again, at Madeline's panicked face, at the card in my hand, at Marissa's tired, wounded eyes, and finally, at Lily, who clutched her bear with silent fear. Something inside him broke. Fine, he muttered, voice shaking. I'll sign whatever you want. Madeline gasped. Ryan, you can't. He silenced her with a shaking hand. I'm not going to prison for you. Those words hit her like a slap. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The dynasty she tried to build crumbled in seconds. I handed Ryan the prepared documents I brought with me. Documents Rosa helped me draft at dawn. He signed, each signature cutting a piece of his power away. Then he slid the papers across the table without meeting anyone's eyes. When the last page was signed, I folded the documents and tucked them into my purse. Thank you, I said, standing slowly. That will be all. Madeline's face twisted. You think this is over? I turned back to her. Oh, Madeline, this is only the beginning for you. Her shoulders slumped. She knew exactly what I meant. her reputation, her social standing, her supposed influence. All gone the moment this scandal surfaced through other channels. Because I wouldn't have to say a single word. The internal investigation was already underway, and without her son to cover it up, there would be nowhere left for her to hide. Ryan collapsed into his chair, defeated. Marissa gathered Lily, and I placed a protective arm around them both. As we walked toward the door, Ryan's voice cracked behind us. "Estelle, are you going to call him?" I paused, turned slightly, and spoke the truth. "I don't have to." His eyes widened. "You left a trail even your mother couldn't bury. Agent Klein has been watching you for months." I exhaled softly. "All I did was shine a light on what you already did to yourself." He blinked rapidly, panic overtaking his expression. "And Ryan," I added gently, "don't mistake mercy for weakness. What I did today wasn't revenge." He swallowed. "Then what was it?" I turned fully, my voice calm and steady. "Justice." Madeline sank into her chair, defeated. Ryan buried his face in his hands. And the three of us, 3 generations of women, walked out of that house and into the sunlight. 3 weeks later, I sat on my porch drinking tea when my phone rang. "An unknown number," I answered. "Mrs. Hart," a calm voice said. "This is Agent Daniel Klein. I wanted to inform you personally that your tip assisted our investigation greatly. We have moved forward." My heart fluttered. "I didn't tip you," I said carefully. A pause. "Ma'am, a packet with your return address arrived at our office 2 days ago." My brows knitted. "I sent nothing." Another pause. Then he said, "It was signed by someone named Madeline Wilson." I froze. "Madeline? She sent the documents? Why?" I whispered. Agent Klein sighed softly. "Some people try to save themselves at the last moment. She turned on her own son." I closed my eyes. So that was how her story ended. Not with dignity, not with remorse, but with betrayal, poetic and bitter. "Thank you, Agent Klein," I said. When I hung up, the breeze rustled the garden roses gently, as if brushing the past away. Inside the house, Marissa laughed softly at something Lily said, a warm, healing sound, a sound Ryan could never touch again. I looked toward the sky, clear, bright, free, and whispered to myself, "Strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers." Samuel had been right all along. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.